Hey there, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we've got a special treat today. We are chatting with two of our Team UCAN Olympic marathoners, Jane Vongvorachoti, Ariana Hilborn, fresh from Rio. Guys, it is so great to have you both with us today. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
So really, it's been pretty incredible time. I'm sure a whirlwind for you guys over the past, several months, even over the past year. So really excited to hear from both of you what the experience in Rio was like, and really what the journey was like getting to the Olympics. Jane, I know I saw you post something the other day on Facebook kind of talking about stepping back and appreciating the journey, and it's been quite a journey for both of you guys. So, I appreciated that sentiment, and I think folks will really enjoy listening to that. And then certainly towards the end, I'd love to hear from both of you guys. You've successfully implemented UCAN products into your training, so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But to get us started, Jane, I'll start with you. Tell us how you got into the sport of running. You represented Thailand in the Olympics at the marathon a couple weeks ago. Where did running start for you?
I started off playing soccer, actually, since I was 5 years old, and so I always used running to keep myself fit. And I actually played for the Thailand national team for 7 years, and one of the ways that I tried to adjust the weather and the temperature in Thailand when I played soccer was to actually run smack at noon. And so I think, that's kind of how I implemented running into my training. And then once your soccer career generally ends around 26, 27, and I said it's time to kind of hang my boots, and I just went into the work world as a trainer. And I actually happened to fall into running because I had a master trainer ask me to run in a half marathon. And I was like, I think that's 13 miles at that time. And so it was like a month and a half of training before my first actually road race. So that's how I started running.
What I think is fascinating about both your story, James, both you and Ariana, is both of you guys didn't, kind of get into the sport at a very early age and weren't, competing kind of as that being the primary thing you do at an early age. Ariana, for you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you didn't run competitively in high school or college, right? It was really something that you, like Jane, discovered post-collegiately?
Yep, that's correct. I started running after college just to kind of get back into some kind of shape after having a little too much fun in college. And I didn't run my first road race until 2008, and that first road race was a marathon, so I guess just jumped right into it. And so yeah, that was kind of my story. I ran 4 hours and 37 minutes, my first marathon, and I stopped and cried during the middle of it, I hated it, and then I crossed the finish line and couldn't wait to sign up for another one. So yeah, I did another one in the 4 hour and 15 minute range right after that, and just kind of started setting goals for myself and chipping away at my time, and discovered that I really loved running, and I could be good at it and be successful at it.
So Ariana, I'll stay with you, and then Jane, I want to ask you something similar. So, not to scoff at a 4+ hour marathon, but most people that are running 4+ hour marathons aren't thinking, I'm going to make it to the Olympics. When did that happen for you? What was kind of that transition or that evolution where you realized, hey, not only can I, make significant improvement as I do this more, but I actually have a chance to do something really special with this?
Yeah, I think first, after that first marathon, I got really involved in reading everything I could about running, and I was on the Runner's World message boards, and I just couldn't get enough of it. And then I found out that there were elite runners. There's people, women just like me running really, really fast. And so I was like, I think, I'm stubborn enough. I can try to be better and get faster. And I think when I broke 3 hours in the marathon, I told myself, okay, now I'll hire a coach. And he kind of told me about, there's the Olympic trials coming up in 2012. You should try to qualify. And I didn't even really know what that was or what time I had to run. So he got me there, and I attempted to qualify for the trials twice before I ran a qualifying time in, was that 2011? I think in January I ran 2:44, I believe. So that was my first kind of big breakthrough in the sport.
Jane, how about for you? You talked about, playing soccer growing up and then, really transitioning and running your first race in your mid-20s. When did you start to think like, hey, I could do something with this beyond, signing up and running just to stay fit? When did you think that, hey, I don't even know when you started thinking about the Olympics, but in general, where did you think like, hey, I could be competitive in this?
Well, when I finished my first half marathon, so that month and a half of training, and I ran about, if I remember correctly, around 128, 129 for the half, I said, well, if I could, and I immediately went online, and I was looking at, and I finished top 10 in a New York Roadrunner race. I said, well, that isn't bad. I didn't really train much. Let me see what teams are out there. And then when I saw that there was NIAC and then there was Central Park Track Club were the top teams. I, of course, wanted to be on the top teams and contacted them both. And then looked up some standards and said, well, if I can double that, I could probably hit, like, Olympic trials qualifier. So I kind of quickly went into it, even though I didn't necessarily have experience. I already, had this mindset of I wanted to try to qualify. And it didn't work out for 2012, but I thought, the more experience I get and, it's kind of like getting a chance to travel around the world again, but now in running instead of playing soccer would be just awesome. And then naturally, the time, you keep working at it, the times just start to chip away.
So let's fast forward a few years now, and as the Olympics were coming up in 2016, over the last few years, you kind of had to, and I should introduce this question by saying, both of you guys grew up in the U.S., but, ended up representing Ariana, for you it was Latvia, Jane, for you it was Thailand in the Olympics. So curious to hear a little bit about that process. So Jane, we'll stay with you. When did you start kind of making those relationships with, the folks in Thailand who were involved with this, and how did that all come about where you were able to represent Thailand in the Olympics in the marathon?
So actually, I worked, I ended up joining Central Park Track Club, and then my time started to come down, and even though I missed 2012 in the qualifying times, I'm one of those people that won't contact, the Thai Federation until I actually have a time. I'm not one of those who just says, hey, I have the ability to reach these times. So I kind of waited until I hit a decent, respectable time that they would accept. And so when I ran 2 hours and 40 minutes and 40 seconds in Chicago in 2014, I then said, okay, I need to try to figure out how to reach the Thai Federation and, let them know that I'd like to compete for them. And so it actually took me quite a while and to reach out to them because their website was really hard to get through to them. I couldn't get through to them through phone contact either. It wasn't working or no one would pick up. And it just so happened that I invested my time into becoming a running coach too. So I went to USATF, level 1 training, and I met Lauren Seagrave, who actually he had mentioned in his profile that he had coached the Thai sprint team. So at the break, I sprinted right up to him and I asked him, if he had any contacts, and that's how I got in contact with the general secretary for the Thai Federation, and that's how I got in contact with them. And I told them, I'd like to represent them in, a competition before I qualify for the Olympics.
Cool. So kind of that perseverance in getting in touch with the Thai Federation was kind of like that perseverance that you probably used to train for these races as well. Ariana, how about you? How did it come about where you were put in a position to have the opportunity to represent Latvia?
Sure, yeah. It was always something that I had wanted to do since I began running. That would be really neat to honor my family's heritage. And then in 2013, Latvia opened up its citizenship for the children and grandchildren of Latvian citizens that had to flee due to communism. And so my family fell under that. My grandparents came here from Latvia. My dad was born en route, so my entire family, I had some aunts and uncles and cousins that did it as well. So we all applied for our citizenship in 2013. So we were able to get that. We're very, very proud to have that. And so then I went over to Riga in May of 2014 to run the Riga Marathon, and I came in second place there. And after that, I met with the Latvian Athletic Federation while I was over there, and they were really excited to have someone that runs the marathon interested in joining the federation, because they didn't really have a lot of female marathoners then. So now the sport has grown, and we were able to field a full women's marathon team, I think for the first time ever at the Olympics. So it was really exciting to be a part of it and be a part of the team.
And Ariana, that's a great perspective right there. I wanted to ask you specifically on being a female athlete and representing Latvia. How special was that? Of course, on the American marathon team, we have some tremendous female role models, who all competed really well. What did that aspect of it mean to you, to be able to be, a female role model to young women athletes training in Latvia?
Oh, it's just an awesome feeling knowing that, you're setting a good example of, what women can do and how the sport is growing there. They hold a half marathon series there now that so many women are competing in, and it's just growing leaps and bounds there. So it's really exciting to see, and honestly, I'm so honored and humbled to be a part of it.
Jane, what about you? Was that something that kind of resonated with you as well in your experience? I know you spent a lot of time in Thailand over the last year or two and coaching and things like that too. How much did that idea mean to you, to be able to be a female role model for, young Thai women athletes?
I really, I'm honored to have, had the chance to run for Thailand and to be a role model for them, because when I played soccer, it's kind of the same thing when I played for the national team there. If I went out on the streets and was, asking some boys to kick a soccer ball around, they would look at you funny, and they would just pass you the ball really soft, and they didn't expect anything out of it. And, it's kind of the same thing with running, and like I said, it was really hard to contact them, and so what I've done in the past, year and a half or so to 2 years when I went there was, how do we reach more runners, that maybe internationally, maybe have dual citizenship, to open up the opportunity to get more runners or talented runners in Thailand or that are Thai, and also to promote running in Thailand, because it's actually, in the past 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of running in Thailand, but there's not much, I guess, experience holding marathons and half marathons. And, many women are, maybe shy about running, and so most of them will run a little bit and, they'll participate in the walks. But in the past year or so, it's grown a lot, and I think it has to do with myself and my teammate who has come along and, gone to these half marathons, stuck around, done like before, and let people know, hey, I'm like 32 now, and, I started when I was 27, 28. It's never too late to start running. And to really promote to the youth, like we've gone to many of the schools in my time in Thailand as well, you know, letting them know that, you know, you need to get outside and be active. And it's not just women, but, you know, little boys as well, to be really active. It's really important for your life. And, you know, in Thailand especially, if you have darker skin, they associate sometimes that with work arms and being outside in hard labor. And so a lot of the parents don't necessarily want them to go outside because they want the lighter skin. So, you know, I was talking to even some private schools about that, and so it really hit home, I think, to a lot of people, and a lot of people are following my Facebook feeds and her Facebook feeds, and I think it's encouraging because I hope, like, our long-distance program now, we have 5 or 6 girls, and they're going to, like, a Southeast Asian cross-country beach games in a week or 2, so that we didn't really have for a long time. So we hope to field, you know, in the next Olympics, the full team as well. But, you know, so far we got 2 runners, so that's, you know, great for our country.
That's awesome to hear from both of you. You know, I think it's certainly being an Olympian gives you guys a unique voice and the ability to touch, you know, a community of people. So that's great to hear what you're both doing with that. I want to take you guys both back to the actual moment that you found out you made the Olympic team and see if there's anything specific you can recall from that. Ariana, I'll start with you. Do you remember when you got the call, or I'm sure you do. It's a silly question. Do you remember? But tell us a little bit about, you know, when you got the call, what your reaction was, what those emotions were when you found out you'd be going to Rio.
Sure. I knew that they had submitted my name to be on the team, and so the Latvian Olympic Committee made their final decision on July 14th. So I was kind of on pins and needles since I had run the Ottawa Marathon on May 29th, and just, I mean, to be honest, it was quite stressful. Like, am I on the team? Am I not on the team? Well, I should be, but maybe not. And so, you know, you just never want to, you know, like, I didn't want to get my hopes up too high, you know, just in case. So it was really a really hard, long wait. But July 14th, I had received a text from one of the heads of the Athletics Federation, and he had just sent me a picture of the screen that they were using to announce the athletes, and my picture was up there. So that's how I found out. It was, I think, 5 o'clock in the morning, Arizona time, because they're 8 hours ahead of us. And so we were just like jumping, and I was at my parents' house, and so it was really exciting. My mom, I still had a run, but my mom had mimosas, so we were all really excited.
That's amazing. Jane, how about you? When did you get the call? How did you find out?
Well, I actually so, you know, I ran the qualifying time in January at Houston, and, you know, and my teammate also got the qualifying time. So we were celebrating that we had the qualifying time then. But I knew, because in federations, you know, and you have to go through also your Olympic committee. And so I knew, I was like, okay, you know, like, I have the qualifying time, I'm celebrating because I have this, but they have a choice to not send you as well. So due to quota or whatever reason. So I was excited, but I told her, I was like, you know what, we have to, like, contact the media. We have to let everyone know that we have, like, the qualifying time, to make it known that, you know, we worked so hard to get this time, and if the media promoted it, that there's no way that the Olympic Committee wouldn't send us. So we kind of went out there. I went back to Thailand, and we were in the newspapers and everything, and we're like, and I kept telling her, I said, you know, they're going to send us. They can't not send us. It was like the first time that we have anyone hitting qualifying time. So it was about, I made sure by flying, because I was training here from January to May, and I made sure I said, you know what, maybe they want me to go back into Thailand. So I went back to do some training, and sure enough, as soon as I got back a week or so later, like, we have your name in, don't worry, you know, you're in. And so it was both of us, and one of the guys on our team he'd been working really hard. He tried to qualify twice, and he didn't make it, but our federation decided also that our team has come a long way and decided to give him the wild card to go to Olympics. So he's the first one to go for the men's as well. So that was really exciting. It's a big process, you know, like Ariana says, it's like you don't know, you have the qualifying time, but sometimes it's not up to you, but you can't let that stop you from trying to do whatever you can on your part to, you know, to get there.
Definitely. It definitely sounds for both of you that it wasn't, you know, just as straightforward as we got the time we're in, like it is, you know, for the U.S. Olympic trials. So I'm sure there was a lot of stress there, but, you know, once you guys both made it and you headed to Rio, take us to Rio. You know, certainly there was a lot of coverage about what was going on in Rio, you know, what the experience was like for the athletes. Ariana, I'll start with you. Overall, you know, what was just that whole experience like for you and your family to arrive in Rio, to train there in the days leading up to the marathon? What was all that like?
Yeah, you know, it was pretty, it was definitely overwhelming at first. There's just so much going on, and, but just being there, it's just so inspiring. You have so many athletes of, you know, all different sports, and it's just really neat seeing everyone there, because you know how hard you worked and how much of your life you've devoted to this, and you see, you know, all these other like-minded athletes. So that was really neat. I was so happy to have Jane there, because she showed me like where everything, like I would have probably just stayed in my room had it not been for her, because I had no idea like all this stuff she knew, but she was like on it. So that was awesome. But yeah, the week went by so fast. In between training, you know, going to the dining hall, like, you know, walking around, it flew by. It really did. The opening ceremonies are magical. It was so interesting to see it, you know, after watching it on television my whole life. Seeing it in person was just, it was just unbelievable. I mean, I didn't take a lot of pictures at the opening ceremonies just because I wanted to see it like from my eyes and just remember it and not look at it through a screen. So it was really, really incredible. The entire experience being in the village was awesome. You know, I didn't see one mosquito. I felt completely safe. So it was, I mean, my experience in Rio was really great.
And, you know, you mentioned the opening ceremony, Ariana. I can only imagine what it was like for both of you to be walking out there. I mean, for me to see you guys on the screen at the opening ceremony was like crazy. You know, it was like so exciting. So I can only imagine what it felt like. Jane, what was it like to be out there, you know, for this iconic moment that you've probably, you know, seen on the TV screen, you know, every Olympics basically?
It was amazing. You know, like she said, it was overwhelming at first, and I think it was a great idea to get out there. You know, definitely, I went out there about 10 days before. I definitely was like, I'm not missing the opening ceremony, and it was definitely something, you know, I won't forget. And like she said, I did take some pictures before I got in there, and I saw some of the other people take their phones and try to hold it up, and they wanted to capture it. But I said, you know what, like, then I would kind of miss it. So I waited until I went more than halfway through, and then I tried to record a little bit, and of course my phone was full of like photos, so I couldn't get it. But I was like, it's okay, you know, like, you know, I have the experience, and it was really nice. Like, I even, you know, they have the Olympic torch coming, and you're like, that's kind of when it kind of even like really like your like hair stands up on your arms, and you're like, wow, like I'm actually really here. And so it was really amazing, you know, meeting so many different runners as well. And I think, like, the thing with marathon running, wherever you are, is you get to meet so many people. And all of us, you know, like, when you just notice each other and we're like, oh, can we jump in a run with you? Because we only had this, you know, it was basically like a 2-kilometer course around our village. And so sometimes it could get a little, like, monotonous, but you know, I ran with Ariana. I got a chance to. I bumped into Alexi Pappas, and I ran into Diane Nurui. And these are all these people that I heard of sometimes, or I'd come across in the news, or I've seen them at local races. And they've come to New York and run, and I think everyone was just excited to have someone else run with them, because as marathoners, sometimes like some people only had one runner maybe by the federation, and so you had no one to run with. So it was really nice to run and meet and talk to other people and get their experiences too.
And, Jane, you mentioned, you and Ariana both mentioned running together, which I thought was so cool. You guys didn't know each other personally. No. Before heading to Rio, right? So
No.
I'd love to kind of hear how that came about. Jane, how did you guys end up connecting and running together there in Rio?
Well, because some of the times that you're, like when I was there earlier, I said, okay, this is going to be great, but I was like, this is such a small loop. And so I just, like, in the middle of the day, I just checked on Facebook, and I saw that I think you had put up a feed on Facebook, and it had Ariana on there. I was like, maybe she'll think this is weird, but I was like, maybe not. So I kind of, like, reached out. I kind of reached out to her, and, I said, hey, are you in the village yet? I was like, do you want to go on a run? And she's like, of course. So, and it was really nice because I didn't, I knew some of those top athletes would be there. I'm like, they probably don't want to run with me, or, they have their own little routine or something like that, or they're not even in the village. So I reached out to her, and sure enough, we had really good conversations, and, we got our, like, runs in, and we shared whatever experiences we got, or we figured out when we were in the village, because, even after I had, explored the village and I gave her some advice about, ice baths and stuff like that, it was really hard to get some information about, the race or the marathon tour, or if there are other places we can practice. And, so she was really helpful with that too. So I was thankful that, I got a chance to meet her, and, I'm sure I'll meet her along the way in some of the races, ahead. It's just, this is what the Olympics is about. It's just making friendships through running and sport.
Yeah, Ariana, I'd just love to get your take on that. You guys are thousands of miles away from home, and what is that like? I know, granted, you and Jane didn't know each other, but to be able to get there and have that, just kind of that similar shared experience, running with somebody who's kind of like similar training time to you. What was that like? What did that mean to you?
Oh, it was awesome. I tend to be a little shy when meeting new people. I don't really put myself out there, that often. So it was really great to have her there, and, a few other marathon runners that we knew as well, just to kind of see a familiar face, because there were so many people there. But then, you kind of have to think about it too. There's so many others are in the same boat. They're like, oh, they might be overwhelmed as well, and, trying to meet people. So, I think just after the first few days, it felt like seemed a little more relaxed after that. So, like, kind of getting my, boundaries set, and, seeing who was there and stuff, that definitely helped, relax a little bit.
So let's talk about the actual race. And, you here as elite athletes, you guys are, of course, used to competing in all sorts of different countries and different situations. So you're kind of used to being thrown in an unfamiliar setting and then, going out there and competing. And, I kind of look back when they interview pro athletes who are competing in the Super Bowl, and you hear these cliches like, oh, it's just another game. Is that the case? Like, when you're actually out there, and Ariana, I'll start with you for this one. When you're actually out there running the race, at some point, does it become like just another marathon or just another training run, or are you very cognizant the entire time that, like, hey, I'm here competing in the Olympics?
Yeah, I would like to be one of those relaxed Zen people and say, like, oh, yeah, I just treat it like another training run or another race. But no, I definitely didn't. I probably worked myself up about it a little too much. I was just trying to stay calm. But, especially the first, half when you're still feeling good. I mean, I was running down part of the course and looking up, I saw Christ the Redeemer, and it was like, oh my goodness, I'm running in the Olympics right now. Like, I had to, like, there's a trick I learned in high school. So if you think you're about to cry, you like pinch your fingers together, but not get them to touch. It's so weird, but it helps you not to cry. And so I remember like having to do that in the first, half of the marathon because, just, honoring my grandparents, honoring Latvia and, just how far I've come. Just being there was, definitely was not just another race. It was so special.
Jane, I guess pretty much the same question for you. Were you able to kind of block out all the emotions and everything and run it like another race, or similar to Ariana, were you very cognizant the entire time of, what was going on?
I'm usually pretty routine based, and it was actually one of the races that I think was the most relaxed, because I don't think every marathon that I've run since I first ran marathon was to try to qualify for something like 2012, 2016. So I was always chasing a goal, and it was just always nerve-wracking. I need to get this race pace. I need to like focus on this time. Like I need to, everything was so focused, and this was kind of like a celebration race, and I definitely knew it would be really hard to get like a PR. And, training all this time, I was like, I just need to get really fit as I can, and just go out, calm. And so I actually just, like, arriving at the warm-up area, definitely that point, you're like, oh, my God, there's Shalane Flanagan, and they're warming up, and they're, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, snap out of it. And then, at the start of the gun, I actually kind of just ran it just like a normal race, and it wasn't as nerve-wracking. I think it really hit me coming down the final stretch. Those flags, and normally I never pump my hands in the air at all. Like I'm usually like racing to get like a clock time, and I was like, I don't care. This is never gonna happen again. So I was like, sure enough, pumping my hands up in the air a couple times as I was trying to get to the finish line. And of course, at the finish line, I did the same thing, and this girl, gets me by a second, but I was like, you know what? That doesn't matter. I was like, she's 90th, but I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's all right.
You gave me goosebumps talking about it.
Yeah, so I was like, and everyone kept asking me, they're like, were you guys like head to head the entire race? I was like, no, I was just like, I wanted to celebrate, and I had no idea she was there, but it didn't matter anyway. But what was really great was, I had met Ariana before the race, and, we came across each other where I had started off a tiny bit quick because I guess, I got into it, and she came up, like, right behind me. Like, you don't know these other runners that are kind of around you. They're just from different countries, and you're like, okay, just stay relaxed. Try not to, like, overheat, like, stay calm. And here she comes. Like, I was like, okay, maybe, like, she's kind of going the pace I want to start off with, and she kind of said something. I don't remember what she said. And I kind of like latched on to her, and we kind of ran together for a little bit, and she pulled away later on, and then I came upon her again, and I tried to get her going too. And I think if we hadn't met, not that I would have, I wouldn't have, it was just something special that I'll always remember, that like you're really trying to help somebody out there, and. Because I didn't say that to any other runner. I just always said that to her. And she said it to me too. So I think that, definitely it was nice to have someone that you kind of knew out there.
For sure.
Yeah, Ariana, what do you remember? What do you remember about that moment, Ariana? Love your perspective on that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I remember coming up to Jane, and I just there was a group of runners kind of ahead of us. So I was like, okay, let's just go get them. That's what I said to her. Just so we could latch on, because it's amazing how in 160 women you find yourself by yourself. I don't even know how that happened, but so I think just trying to get some kind of group together. Especially in the beginning, just to stay relaxed. I think that's been key in a lot of my races. So seeing Jane, and then there's another gal that I had met in the village, and so she was with me as well. So, just having those familiar faces is key when you're out there, especially, I'm not going to lie, it was a sufferfest in the heat. So especially having other people that that are going through the same thing, to kind of keep you going. was definitely key. It was key to me even finishing the race. So it's good to have friends out there, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, guys, it's really kind of inspiring for both of you to hear about both the process and actually the experience at the Olympics. So I appreciate you guys giving us a candid look on, something that 99.99% of the world will never experience. So that's really awesome. I want to spend a few minutes now just chatting with both of you a little bit about UCAN and how it's fit into the training. I know it's something that both of you guys relied on a great deal leading up to the Olympics. So Jane, we'll start with you. I know, we met a few years back in New York City at I think one of the Central Park Track Club workouts up at Columbia. Yep. What do you remember about when UCAN was introduced to you and kind of what intrigued you initially about the product?
Well, I was actually starting. I think that was my first year starting out with Central Park. Coming off, I had started in October 2010, and you had come, I think, 2011 in the beginning of like the outdoor track season, and that was when I was trying to chase my first like marathon qualifying time for 2012. And so I remember you came. It was at the beginning of practice or like towards the middle of it. And I remember you just telling us about it, and I was like, I need whatever I can to, to help me, have enough energy for a marathon. And sure enough, like, you were very open about, letting us try out the product first and seeing if you really like it. And, I was hooked from the beginning, and I didn't even wait for Devin. I was, because I think you had given us a card, and I just reached out to you and I said, hey, I really love the product. I think it works, and I have this Olympic goal, and I'm nowhere near it right now. But I think if I had some support, that would help. And I thought, and I used it in a 25K race, didn't even have a gel in it, and so that's how I started with UCAN. And it was really nice being able to, have a face-on-face contact or phone calls with you just so easily to ask for, the product or even give you feedback about it. And so it's grown from, only the lemonade flavor that I really liked to being able to have, the chocolate, then the orange came next. That became my second favorite. And then when you came out with chocolate delight, the cocoa delight, like, just pretty recently, and I think last year or something, I was just like, okay, I was like, this is so much better, and I can rotate between different flavors. And then when you came out the bar, I was like, okay, this is amazing, because, when you're going to training, you want something you can rely on and something that tastes good too. And I think I've shared it with, everyone I know, and they love it that you're coming out with different flavors and everything. So it's nice to be able to have an input and get input from my clients as well to give back to you.
That's awesome, Jane. And yeah, it's been a fun ride. I still remember that date in 2011 very well, coming up to Columbia to chat with you guys. Jane, I'll come back to you in a moment, but Ariana, similarly, I think you and I kind of date back 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
When we initially, one of our ambassadors, Tanya, had mentioned, I have a friend, Ariana, who's improving a lot in the marathon and having some GI issues, and I think we traded a few emails, but then 2014 was when you really got into it. So for you, what was it kind of that caught your eye or got you interested in, really implementing UCAN into your training?
Sure, yeah. I had been running marathons using typical gels, and every time my stomach would get so sick. It would get to the point where 3 days leading up to a race, I could only eat like rice and oatmeal and stuff like that. Those gels just really ripped apart my stomach. I remember running. I believe it was. Oh gosh, I don't remember which race it was. It was one of the marathons I'd run, and I took gels, and afterwards, I could barely eat anything. It was just, my stomach was just so upset from all the sugar. And I was like, there just has to be something else for me, because this can't, I can't continue to run like this. It's holding me back. And so I started using the UCAN again, getting back to it, and, it's just been so much better for me to not have to ingest and take in all that sugar all the time.
So, Ariana, I'll drill a little bit specific with you on that. So, how different, say, like a typical training run for you, leading up to the Olympics or in any marathon buildup, how different is the fueling for a long run now that you've been using UCAN versus what you might have been previously doing with gels? Could you kind of take us through like the nuts and bolts, say, of like
Sure.
16-mile or an 18-mile long run?
Sure. Let's see. Let's go with like 18 to 20 miles. I mean, I would definitely even before we would start the run, I'd usually take some kind of gel just to get going as a little pick me up right there. And then I would usually take a gel about every 5 miles into the run, and that's what I used to do for the marathon as well. And so now I just use the UCAN about an hour before. I'll usually get up 3 hours before and have breakfast and then go back to bed. And then I'll have the UCAN an hour to half an hour before on the drive to the run. And I've found that it works just really well and becoming more fat adapted and having my body, trying to teach it to burn fat rather than to just burn these quick sugars that would leave me, I'd be up here for a few miles and then just, feel awful, right? Okay, 5 miles in, oh good, I get to take another gel. It was just, it was just so much eating during the run just so I could feel like my energy levels were up. So I think the UCAN has definitely helped me with that.
And that's a great point, Ariana. I think the way you kind of just described it, like looking at it as a training tool, a part of the training that's going to, help you achieve that specific goal of getting more efficient and getting more efficient at burning fat. That definitely speaks to a big aspect of it. Jane, how about for you? I know you got started with UCAN as you were kind of increasing the distances. Did it represent a very different methodology of fueling for you, or did you kind of start doing distance on the UCAN plan?
Well, I used UCAN kind of in the beginning to instead on my longer runs, just to get me going. Also, sometimes, especially during the summer months, it's really difficult to get a banana or a sandwich or peanut butter jelly sandwich to digest before a run, and you'd have to get up super early. So it was really nice to have UCAN. I would just take it if I had to do a training run at 5:30, that means if I ate a full sandwich, I'd have to wake up 3 hours before, and so it'd be 2 o'clock in the morning. Whereas with the UCAN, if I had an 18-mile run, I could take the UCAN 1 hour before. I usually double that, so I'd have more nutrients in me, and be able to then midway during the run, I either had a coach or something, give me, the fluids after midway through or, 15 miles in, and that definitely really helped. I definitely, use the UCAN a lot in Thailand. I think it's something that if you're probably training in Thailand or a hot country where you need to get up really early, 5:30, it's already blaring hot, and I was really thankful to have it because I would kind of I'd have be awake, my eyes half open. I'd already have the water by my side. I'd pour that scoop in, shake it up, drink it, and kind of get maybe half an hour more sleep, and then be able to go on my run. So that was really helpful in Thailand to have, especially I was kind of in a secluded spot, and I couldn't even necessarily go out and have bread all the time or bananas fresh for me, and you couldn't actually keep because I had a room and I had other teammates there in other rooms. I had a single room. Our kitchen was in the other house. We had a boys and girls house, and so I wasn't about to wake everyone up 3 hours earlier just to get my food. So it was really, and you didn't want to store anything in your room as well because if you kept any kind of food in your room, there were just insects that would come in. So the only thing I had was, and I guess it wasn't sugary enough because the ants were never anywhere near the UCAN. They'd probably, the spilt part of it probably have like, super ants in Thailand now, but it was really nice to have the UCAN to rely on, just in my room anywhere, and it was very useful in Rio as well because, the food was okay, definitely okay, but I had those bars, and those were my breakfast for the day of the race. So, I had no idea what kind of bread they were going to have there. So I was like, you know what? I know what UCAN is. I'm going to have 2 of those bars. And so it was the first race I actually did not have, like, a peanut butter and jelly kind of sandwich. So, it was great.
Very interesting from both of you. Yeah. And I'll ask you guys one more thing on UCAN before we wrap this up. How about incorporating it into your recovery routine? Ariana, I'll start with you. Is the UCAN with protein something that you've used as part of the recovery routine? And if so, what, from your standpoint, like what is the benefit you see in it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I use it every day, even on my 2-week break. I love the chocolate one, the chocolate protein. And I usually have that, immediately after the run. I'll bring a packet with me wherever I'm going with my shaker bottle. But I also like to drink it as my evening snack before I go to bed, just because it has that protein. And, I tend to eat a little earlier. I like to eat dinner at like 5 o'clock. So by the time 8 o'clock comes around, I'm usually pretty hungry again. So it's the perfect snack for me. Holds me over till the next morning. So yeah, the chocolate protein is definitely my go-to. I love it.
And that's a great. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, especially mixing it with the chocolate coconut water, if you can find that, is awesome.
So that's a pro tip for everybody right there. And what I was going to add, Ariana, I'm happy you kind of brought up the that idea. I didn't realize you were using it in that way after dinner, but that's one of the great things that we talk about with UCAN is because it's not a sugar-based fuel or a sports drink. You can kind of implement it in different ways outside of training. Jane, how about you? Similarly to Ariana, have you found a benefit in using UCAN as part of the recovery routine?
Definitely in part of my recovery routine, like right after, is just really nice. I'd have like cold water that was already, in the fridge, and it was like you didn't necessarily need a blender, and that was the best part of it. I have the UCAN, the shaker bottle, and I just take that everywhere with me. I always, I have I take the packets. There are always extra packets in my backpack to have, and even if I can't get to water, sometimes I could be able to mix it with milk or whatever. Actually, when I was training for the marathon, sometimes like when I was in New York, especially, you don't necessarily have the best options around you, or it's really expensive. And so I'd have the packet with me, and I would, if I finished meeting up with a friend or something, they're like, oh, let's go get some ice cream or something like that, and you're in training. And so I would say, okay, great, like we'll go there. And generally I'd ask them for if they had like soy milk or something like that. And I would just, and most of the times, like Starbucks did it for me too. They blended it up with, banana or something. They were really nice about it. And so I think it was a way you can, maintain your weight and also kind of, be able to have this kind of dessert because it did taste good.
All right, Jane, I got to start traveling around New York City with you, going to different Starbucks and getting them to blend up my UCAN smoothies. I don't know if I have that kind of influence, but if I say I've gotten a lady next to me, maybe they'll do it for me. Guys, this has been really, really fun. I just want to close this out by asking you each one final question. I guess the question that we'll close this on is what's next. So this has kind of been I'm sure a grind for the last several years for both of you, and you've reached, a very special pinnacle. Jane, I'll start with you. What's next?
So next year there are the World Championships, and it will be in London, so that may be quite convenient for me. So that could be up next as far as major races. There's also the Southeast Asian Games, which is also in the month of August, so I'll have to talk to my federation about what they think, they want me to do as well, and see, what is best for me. there's also the Asian Games in 2018 that would be great. And then the Southeast Asian Games, again, is every 2 years. So the year before Tokyo. So the end goal would probably be Tokyo, but, we'll see. We'll take it one step at a time. I'm still coming back from recovery. I think it took me a little bit longer than normal, I think, because it was really hot. It was one of the hardest races, I've run, definitely. And so I think, taking it easy, because I've always been chasing after that next standard. I had to turn around, in training. And I know Ariana did too, for 3 months, and then try to turn it back around to hit a qualifying time in another 3 months because you missed it or something went wrong. So I think, enjoying a little bit of, the marathon, having run the Olympics, and then, getting that, hunger for, racing again. So definitely World Championships, then Southeast Asian Games next year was my goal.
Awesome. And you spoke to the idea that you're a little bit in recovery mode right now. If you want to skip that UCAN packet and have that ice cream next time you go there with a friend, then I think that's well deserved. How about for you, Ariana? What's next for you?
Yeah, I took 2 weeks off after the marathon. Had a lot of fun eating and drinking everything in San Diego has to offer. So I had my first run back last Monday, and it was rough. It was a rough 6 miles. So all runners out there, when you come back from a break, it's totally normal to feel like that. So let's see, just getting back into it, I'm going to, after training for the marathon, pretty much for a complete year last year, I want to do some shorter stuff now. We're looking to start a family in the near future, so that might throw a wrench in some racing plans, but that's totally okay. Possibly a spring marathon. And then just kind of keeping at it, hoping to represent Latvia well, and looking on to 2020 for sure.
Awesome, guys. Well, this was really special. I can't thank you guys both enough for spending an hour with us here today. And
that was awesome.
It's so cool to get your insights, both on the Olympic experience, kind of your journey, like we talked about in the beginning. The journey that got you guys to this point was, as special to hear about as the actual experience. And then, of course, appreciate you guys sharing your perspective on UCAN with us. So just want to thank you guys again. I want to thank everybody else who's tuning in. Lucky to be joined by Ariana Hilborn and Jane Vongvorachoti, 2 Olympians, 2 great representatives of their countries for the sport of running, and couldn't be more thrilled to have you guys as part of our team with UCAN. So thank you guys so much. It was really fun.
Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. We appreciate you listening, and you can catch this on our Facebook page, facebook.com/GenUCAN.